So Brad.
Hello.
What you been up to, man? What's your
hanging out?
How was your weekend?
Doing stuff. Not super eventful, except for yesterday afternoon.
What happened yesterday afternoon?
When I endeavored to collect all 100 feathers in Assassin's Creed 2 and accomplished that task.
Yay!
And then
Clearly a productive use of my time.
And then you booted up Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and jumped right in?
Yeah,
that would just be irresponsible.
I still feel confident in our bet, Ryan.
Yeah, we posited last week that by October the 30th, 2013.
Yeah, which is like assuming that there will be another Assassin's Creed out.
Yeah.
And Brad will still not have caught up.
You're crazy.
Wait, wasn't there a...
Feathers were the blockage, which has now now been broken up and passed.
Yeah, just like you lost your Mass Effect save and you got right around to that.
Like the proverbial kidney stone, it's been passed.
Then don't fight us. You're $100 richer automatically.
Right.
So I don't know what the problem. You have a year. You have less than a year now.
You know, mostly...
Clock's ticking, man.
Mostly I figured...
Got to get that in upcoming.
Yeah.
We got our 2 running bets.
Honestly, I just figured that, 2012's 2009 Game of the Year was such a contentious category this year that I should go back and wrap it up.
It's important.
It was actually kind of fun. Games Radar has a really nice guide, and I just kind of sat there hanging out with my lady, talking about whatever, running around, picking up feathers.
I mean, that's one of those things in that game that's like, it's not tough, it's just...
It's kind of tedious.
It's just tedious.
It's not marked on the map.
It's just like looking
that started in Brotherhood.
But then Mama's so happy.
They call them out?
Yeah, I believe it's actually on the map and starting in Brotherhood.
Right. Yeah, but then they introduced a bunch of other collectibles, too.
Well, I mean,
I think everything's on the map, though, isn't it? I could be wrong.
I think you can buy treasure maps.
Yeah.
You can always buy treasure maps.
The thing of it was, I was advised that after 2, like achievement-wise, they add so many, like multiplayer stuff and all this other DLC.
Trying to S-rank the other ones is...
like, I'm not even going to try it. But this one, it was literally just the feathers. That was it. It was all I was missing, and I just wanted... I didn't have 1,000 points in anything, and I thought it would be cool.
I will still be curious to see... Because there's a few different layers in Brotherhood of collectibles. Some of them take some of them are a little more challenging to actually, some of them take a little more skill to actually
like the underground puzzle chambers.
Yeah, the underground puzzle chambers.
The Brutus armor.
The like the symbols that you have to go and like line up on buildings using the.
Those aren't that bad. I did all of those.
Oh, is that like
those aren't that bad.
Sounds like an Arkham Asylum kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of.
That's cool.
Yeah. Those are actually fun to do.
But it's not as involved. You're not like lining up parts of the environment to make the question mark like in Batman. It's a little more straightforward than that, but you're given like these super vague like text hints about like where this thing might be, and then somehow you have to figure out, oh, that's this building, even though there's no real or not a lot of demarcations as far as like, this building is this and this building is that.
Right.
I'm not sure where you're supposed to get that information exactly, but I would be curious to see, how once you get into Brotherhood, how much of that collectible stuff you end up.
I'll probably wait till the break.
Snared by.
I actually, just after doing that, I was totally ready to jump in. Like that's actually all I wanted to play yesterday was Brotherhood, but there's stuff we should be playing right now for Game of the Year and stuff. So.
Revelations.
The
new Assassin's
more
Creed.
Assassin's Creed. Mm-hmm. More not Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah.
Coming for topical.
I left the Assassin's Creed 3 box on, like, in front of the TV.
I mean, you have it. You got it on Thursday, right?
Yeah. And so it's in front of the TV, kind of standing there as I play Revelations.
Uh-huh.
It's hard for me to run through Revelations and not buy everything and try and do whatever, but
it is counter to your nature.
Yeah, but I'm doing it
as it is to mine.
I'm doing it, man.
You need those banks.
And I'm enjoying it.
Yeah,
I do get the banks.
You do get the banks.
I do.
It also was kind of sounding like when we were talking about the game earlier that by virtue of you forcing yourself to not go through all of the sort of completionist systems, you end up realizing how sort of useless they are in the context of the overall game.
Oh, I knew that already. But Assassin's Creed has kind of always at least rewarded you in some way for doing the useless stuff, whether it's like an item or
like the at least with the feathers, which I didn't do because I just watched that video on YouTube. But you get a little narrative bit out of collecting all the feathers.
You get a little something. But this I'm kind of powering through, and I am enjoying the parts of the backstory. I don't know how much forward story I'm getting, like movement on the main narrative, but you
don't get. You get a little bit, but yeah, you don't get much. Like the whole.
It is fleshing out like parts of Altair's story and stuff like that I'm enjoying.
The stuff when you're inside your head and you're doing the weird jumpy puzzle stuff.
Oh, the first person stuff.
First person stuff.
Yeah,
that stuff's really bad.
I knocked all that out in one because I never wanted to go.
And it just seems like a really clumsy way for them to like they deliver some kind of like narrative backstory and here's some information about Desmond to a certain degree.
Yeah,
but it seems like it's pretty. It always seemed like it was pretty light character stuff.
Yeah,
that wasn't really like relevant to the narrative necessarily.
I feel like it's stuff you kind of can put together on your own.
Sure. You don't need it explicitly stated out that he was kind of this malcontent bartender. So yeah, we kind of knew that already.
I could tell. Kind
of put those pieces together.
Look at that hoodie. So
exactly.
So the Altair stuff is interesting because you do get a bunch of like what led up to the Assassin's Guild being put back together, and that's interesting. But man, they are they stack so many, and this will be refreshing to go into 3 because they just stack so much stuff on top of every mechanic from 1 to Brotherhood and then Revelations.
Yeah,
to where that toy chest is full.
Yeah,
they needed to step back a bit and kind of relook at what they're doing with that game. So I'm hoping 3 is like, all right, maybe we don't need to spend 50% of your time in menus managing, assassins and what you bought. And there are complex systems at work. And like Patrick said, you kind of don't need any of them. Right. Like, I feel like they were introduced along the path, along the journey, and there was a reason each one was introduced, but then they kept them because I felt like they had to, because they couldn't get.
Yeah, they were always kind of like they were, even if they didn't have that much impact on the moment-to-moment gameplay of playing as Ezio, they were fun in a completionist sense and gave you something to do that gave you not necessarily a broader understanding, but you got to see the world as sort of like zoom out a little bit and kind of get a broader sense of like what's happening. It also just gave you stuff to do while you were running like around the map, which is like buying different places. It's like, okay, well, I gotta run all the way around here, and rather than, I don't know, is fast travel new in 3?
No.
Okay, so yeah, rather than fast traveling, I'll buy some of these things while I go. It just gave you stuff to do, but at some point, yeah, there are diminishing returns on.
I feel like there's no
when
reason
you come to realize, well, I don't really need money because the upgrades don't really mean much in the Assassin's Creed games. I can kind of just stick with the stuff I've got, and it's very rare that you actually use the other weapons that they give you. You kind of just stick to the basic tool set.
I think my biggest gripe with Revelations is they really want you to use bombs, and I just don't like using the bombs.
Yeah, the whole like bomb crafting system, that stuff is not.
I just don't enjoy it, and everything is always comes back to bombs.
There's that stuff. I found like the whole zipline stuff to feel kind of contrived.
I like the zip lines
and not to be as convenient to use as the game kind of posits.
They move me around pretty quickly. But the bomb stuff is just. Every chest you open, it's bomb materials. There's bomb shit all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right about like eventually spending way too much time in menus, and they peel back a lot of those systems in 3, but then they kind of introduce some new ones. But
and they're not very good.
The what new ones don't you like?
We can get. Do you want to get into that now?
Sure.
I do. I don't think any of the new systems are altogether that well explained. And there's no reason for you to engage in them.
So that's the bigger issue. See,
the homestead is the replacement for managing cities or purchasing parts of the city or managing your equivalent homestead from previous games. But you have zero incentive to engage with it. It does not help you. The money is never a problem in that game. The upgrades are completely meaningless.
Can I get Altair's sword?
No, there's other swords you can get, but like I literally went through that entire game without upgrading any. Like, there's not armor, but there's weapons and stuff that you can get. You can get different types of tomahawks and swords and shit.
You don't want to give up the tomahawk,
but I like just the basic assassin, the cool assassin logo shaped tomahawk. I like that one so much that I never felt compelled to get different ones.
Assassins have good branding.
The point that I'll argue against you guys for previous Assassin's games is while a lot of those side systems were not essential, they did kind of incorporate them into your main narrative path so that you at least understood what their significance was.
Sure.
And if you did, pursue them, there was it did all fold back in.
And you could also engage with them as you were doing other things in the world, whereas the homestead in 3, you have to travel back.
It's so remote
to the homestead,
Yeah.
and you have very few reasons, at least in like the 10 hours I've played, to come back to that unless you are picking up a new mission. And at that point, you picked up the new mission and you're going off to do that new mission. You're not sticking around the homestead. It just doesn't give you any like.
Well,
there's not like meaningful upgrades, so you don't have a reason to engage with these systems that aren't that interesting on their face. Like like 1 a.m. I got introduced to this like whole set of new systems that involve like caravans and trading and building barrels, and I don't know. Like none of it is like it all seems like they put a lot of thought into it, but they don't do a very good job of explaining why it should be important. It's just like here are systems for you to engage with. I guess if you'd like to.
Everything just seems very isolated in that regard. Like not even the new stuff necessarily, because there's this whole you're out in the frontier space and running around and you're running on the branches, and that stuff's fun to do. And you're hunting animals, and you're finding clues in the environment to figure out like where the animals are, or what animals are in this area, and all this stuff. And you skin them, and then you can go and take the goods from that and go and trade them with these caravans, or if there's people that want to help you with your homestead, but they require these certain goods. Like there's all of these systems in place, but like.
In service of what?
Right, so that's true of the new stuff, but I think that's true of some of the old stuff also.
But at least in 2,
like
where you like your actual this assassin like home place, you're building this up like you want this to be this home to assassins that can like defend itself from the Templars in the surrounding region. Like there's nothing like that.
But it also that stuff does feed back into the main game, because it's like you need to take over territories to get more assassins in your brotherhood, and like there's story beats that can't happen until you make a set amount of progress in that stuff. They've made it all so optional in 3, even down to just like kind of fundamental Assassin's Creed stuff, like go climb this tower and do the sync, and then you'll see all the stuff in the area. It's like you can do that. There are sync towers all over the place, but like what you need that for is
not essential.
Yeah,
wow.
It's like side quests.
Man,
if you like there are regions that have like treasure chests, like collect 7 out of 7 treasure chests, and there's like this peg leg. There's a bunch of side quests. That's the stuff that you discover as a result of doing the syncs.
Huh.
That shows up then on your map. Is like, all right, here's the treasure chest.
But you have the map already.
But so I feel like
it fills out as you're running along.
The Assassins, you'll get that. Like,
it better fills out that region as you're.
But you won't. I don't think you'll see stuff like the side mission markers on your map if you don't do a sync.
Right.
Right.
But I think that the Assassin's Creed games have always been full of stuff that you can choose to do if you want to kind of just fill in the world and just the fiction and know more about what's going on. But then they would also have some other like more gameplay meaningful hook. And I feel like a lot of the side systems in 3, and there's a lot of them. Even a lot of them I think are well done on their own, but kind of put together, they don't link very well.
I like the elements of the Brotherhood stuff that they have in 3, they introduce, but then you can't do very much with until hours later when you've like liberated, sections of towns. So by the time that you've liberated it and you can go back to it, you've probably forgotten that that's even a system in the game. They just don't. It's Brotherhood. It made sense because it was at the forefront, so they were going to really emphasize that you should engage with that. But in 3, it's like that in addition to like these 6 or 7 other systems that it's hard to keep track of. Like at least in Brotherhood, it was front and center. Like this is part of the game, and so you can engage in that in 3, but you can't send people out on missions until well later when you've liberated, because the contracts that come up are all 0% success rate. So it's like, well, I'm not going to go waste a guy and have him get killed on something he's not going to be able to accomplish. And I've just found that instead of going back and seeing like, oh, maybe I can go do that now, I just keep moving forward in the story. It's just too bad. Like it just feels like it's not connected in some sort of cohesive design narrative that informs what Assassin's Creed 3 is, as much as it's just here are a bunch of new systems. I don't know.
Revelations is a bit like that.
Revelations, I'd say, is more like that.
Yeah, it's a big pot. It's a big stew they just threw all that stuff into. I just feel like Ezio's distracted. Like he's got a mission there, and he's just like, I guess I'll do this Assassin's Guild stuff. I don't know.
Like Ezio himself has his collectionist mentality that he can't break out of.
Shit's running fine in Constantinople before we even get. Well, I mean, there's like a little bit of a problem, but there's like a big Assassin's Guild there, and I feel like he's just kind of going around fucking
How can I help?
Putting his peacock feathers out, being like, no, I'm important. I'm going to buy every tailor shop here. That's cool, right? And he's like, no, man, we were actually, shit's actually kind of cool here already. Like, you go into the main assassin guild in Constantinople, and it's huge, and there's incense going all over the place, and it's like, what, do you even need me? Not really. I was here to go find something else. I should probably do that because it's 5 missions long. But meanwhile, you're like, I'm going to run around and help this lady and help this guy. And maybe you want to be an assassin. And it's random people, too. You're just like, dude's on the street and dropped his wallet, and you pick it up and give it to him. And you're like, the guy's like, thank you so much. You're like, you should be an assassin. Like, what? No, I guess. All right.
So there's the tunnel system stuff in I guess both 2 and Brotherhood. I can't remember if it was in Revelation also.
There's
the underground tunnel stuff for fast travel.
It loads.
Right. But it had like some sort of in-world context. And they have a similar thing for that in 3. But then there's also areas where you can just like go to a map and say like fucking fast travel me to there.
And they're the quartermaster stuff.
And it just comes up as it's like if you're going to
like any of the ship harbors, like those locations.
But then sometimes you can like fast travel like across a region, but sometimes you can't. Or sometimes it's like, okay, there is a mission marker right here, and it's literally right next to the harbor master. I cannot fast travel to the mission marker, but if I fast travel to the harbor master, then I can just walk over to my...
Yep, that's happened a bunch of times.
And there's just weird times of like, okay, you're in Boston and you need to get to New York. That's where the actual mission is. And those two urban areas are connected by this frontier area, this wilderness area. And you can like I found myself repeatedly. It's just the bottom line is that they have both the tunnel system for in town, but then they also have this kind of broader reaching fast travel system. I think you can also use the boats to do some of that stuff.
Could you run along trees from New York to Boston?
Yeah.
What?
But that's the thing is like all the side stuff. It's kind of one of those clutch things that I didn't quite realize beforehand. Is by making you run from one fucking location in a city to another in previous Assassin's Creed games. That's where all of that side stuff kind of comes to life. Because you'll be going along a path and you'll be like, oh, hey, there's this thing right over here. I'm on my way. I'll just pop over here and do this thing. I'll collect this thing. I'll take on this mission. I'll buy that store, whatever. But by making there be more fast travel, it's easier to just skip that stuff entirely.
I mean, you'll do a lot of it when you're in the main cities, but it's especially so that you ignore it when you're like the frontier. Like the frontier, there's just not much going on. Like it's gorgeous.
Frontier.
It is like the frontier stuff is the prettiest parts of that game, which just makes it like really unfortunate that it's like, well, there's no reason for me to go explore this area except to like appreciate the art that they've put into it because it's just hunting. And if you don't want to engage in the hunting, which I haven't found a reason to engage in the hunting unless Ryan, you can.
There's trade stuff that.
But like, why do I want to trade?
It's
for money.
Well, again, it all comes into those side systems. It figures into your homestead.
But it all ultimately comes down to currency, and I don't need money in that game. Like it's just.
Yeah, I didn't really find any great reasons for a lot of that stuff to pursue it.
Like it bums me out. Maybe these,
and I also found kind of the main story threads like there was so much urgency in that stuff, and there's so much shit constantly popping off. I'm like, I need to know what the next story beat is here,
right?
More than I need to
hunt.
Well, you can do hunting. There's also like certain missions that will start there, like to get more people working at your homestead. You got to go and do missions for them, and a lot of them you will find kind of out in the wilderness.
They're capitalists. These assassins. They're there to make some money.
Yeah, but just for the ends of their, whole socialist.
I don't know about
plan.
that.
They're like China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since it's in dollars, right? I assume the money's in dollars, right?
I think so.
Assassin bucks.
There are numbers and things are more expensive. I don't
like.
It must be. Yeah.
Does it seem like the economy is correct? Can you like buy a tomahawk for like 50 cents or like $1?
No, like they're like 1,500.
What is an expensive tomahawk?
Well, there wouldn't be dollars.
Yeah, there's no American currency.
So
Yeah.
when
So
This
must be
is like the beginning of the revolution. Like the game pretty much.
I don't know how American currency came about. Are there
There was no-
state dependent dollars?
There were
Are there like so you use like Boston bucks and
gold.
Chuck E. Cheese money?
Using using Zenny.
Oh, okay, all right.
Now you're
You're
speaking
going.
my
You're
language.
smashing pots, and then there's these little rubies that are inside the pots.
And you hold it over your
Rupees.
head.
Yeah,
Ooh.
hold those over your head.
Da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
Got
that's-
it.
That's what happens every time.
Connor does it every single time. That it's over a green one.
How much time do you spend in cities? Because playing 2 reminded me that 98% of that game is in 2 really dense urban environments, right?
Yeah, you still spend like a lot of your time in the cities, but you're also
Are they that built up, though?
No,
No?
they wouldn't be.
Well, I know.
I mean, none of them.
I understand historically, but
yeah.
I mean, just for gameplay reasons, jumping from roof to roof kind of is that
Yeah,
game.
you're not doing as
That's just not possible.
I mean, no, you can.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of roof jumping, and there's pathways, and they've got roof guards and kind of all the things that you would anticipate from traversal in an Assassin's Creed game. The difference is that there's less impetus for you to go on those roofs.
And also, because of where the game is set, these cities are less impressive. Like the cities that Assassin's Creed 2 were set in were fucking incredible, amazing, sprawling cities. Like Revolutionary Time, America East Coast, like not that impressive.
No giant
Well,
stone towers.
they're-
It's like you have churches,
There's cities,
but even
there's-
those aren't that big.
There's cities that are still being built.
Right.
These are still highly under construction. Like they have some burned out old districts that you can see a little bit of the history to them, but like a lot of these buildings just look fresh. These are not, there hasn't been a lot of time for them to be built. So kind of inherently, it's a much different feeling city, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. And I think that they do a good job of giving both those cities kind of their own tone. Because at a certain point, like they did a really good job of differentiating the aesthetics of the cities in the first Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2, but a lot of kind of the fundamental layout and kind of the structure of the cities were pretty similar. So by having something that feels really fundamentally different, that goes on and informs kind of a lot of the rest of the gameplay, because the cities aren't as tall. You're not climbing as much as you would before. There's not as much reason to climb.
And that bums me out because a lot of the reason I like these games are the climbing. Like they are sprawling Prince of Persia type games, and there's just a lot less of that in 3. But
I still
purely
use
because
that.
of the architecture. But that I got a lot of my enjoyment of those games out of that. Like I really enjoyed the huge buildings that you were climbing up like a puzzle, and there's some of that with some of the more sprawling trees.
But
those are pretty fun. Like the ones where Connor has to like tap X to like go up certain tree branches. Like those get at a lot of that puzzle aspect. I like the previous games, but in general, the game has far less of that.
Yeah, but so did Brotherhood and Revelations. Like they've been heading towards this. Like this,
But at
this
least
has
in
been
Brotherhood, it had the underground missions that were purely about the platforming and puzzle elements. So
But I
you
mean,
could
it's-
engage in that in a side mission. As far as I know, there is nothing like that in 3.
It's been. You're right though about the trees. Like getting the sync points in the wilderness, like climbing up those.
Those
trees.
are fun. Those are by far the highlight in terms of scaling.
That's where they have that challenge.
What do you
Otherwise,
jump into?
Like pile of stuff.
There's like branches.
You just jump into branches?
You see a pile and you jump into it.
It's not hay.
Sometimes you can jump into water.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Or you can jump into water,
Huh.
depending. But yeah, like the layout of the trees actually requires you to like, okay, I can't just. It's a lot of the buildings, fucking all of the buildings in Assassin's Creed 3, and again, I think this was true of most of the buildings in Brotherhood and Revelations, are just like hold the right trigger, hold A, and up on the left stick, and you will get to the top.
So do they have historical buildings as you're like going through? Like
Yeah, and I don't know, but again, these are cities that are still under construction. I don't know Boston or New York that well. I especially don't know revolutionary Boston or New York that well. So I've been told by other people more familiar with those geographic areas that yes, that church is that church, and that's where that church is.
They always seem to do their homework
Yeah.
with these games, and that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Is that it gives you it uses science fiction as a way to put you into worlds that financially it would make no sense to build a game around.
They make up for it, though, just by putting you in the middle of all of these fucking crazy historic events. So,
see, some of that, I wonder if that's because I'm an American and much more familiar with our own personal history as a nation. Some of that stuff just, come on, I'm in the middle of all of this stuff every single time, just really conveniently. Like, it's cool.
It's not convenient, it's your destiny.
You are the one.
That's how much.
Just like in every other video game ever made, you're special.
Like, I don't have
like
a problem with being part of it or being, like, on the fringes, but just, like,
Well,
you know, like
I
don't want to spoil some of the events, but you can think of, like, it's specifically the Paul Revere sequence where it's like, oh, so Paul Revere's is like a fucking idiot that can't go on a horse by himself and he's going to bark orders at this guy. Like, it's just, it undermines, like, in service of the sci-fi element, I think, like, undermines the actual importance of the history. I know that's such a, like, kind of a dumb thing,
Yeah,
but it's,
you had like Leonardo da Vinci before.
no,
and,
I know. And that's what I mean in, like, I wonder if, by, like, being an American closer to these, like, actual historical events.
It's the truth they don't want you
that
to know, man.
it just strikes me as really dumb a lot of times. Like, it's like, this is so convenient that it's like it's not as fun to be a part of it because it's just so over the top that I would be in all of
There's
this.
definitely something to that. I think when it comes to dealing with history in video games, like there's that kind of past history. I think it's why a lot of Vietnam era games haven't worked as well, is because it's much closer. And it's much easier to think of like how that stuff actually went. So this is a different case of that.
Right.
But you're probably more familiar with Revolutionary era America than you are with anything that's happened in previous Assassin's Creed games. So it's like it's a lot easier to look at it and go, that's really hokey.
Well, there's also more of a written record. Like, there's less inference. Like, I feel like in the past Assassin's Creed game, they're like, here are these huge gaps. We're not really quite sure how we got from point A to point D, so let's fill it in with this assassin maybe got there. And here it's like, no, we're pretty sure this was all written down. We kind of know how
But
this
who
went.
wrote it down?
That's right.
It
Who's
just
telling the
becomes
history?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's definitely
I guess the
conspiracy.
retconning in service of the fiction is so obvious because of this one that it, at some point, its translation into hokiness becomes somewhat bothersome.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot of fun. I mean, it's fun to be in those moments. It's the Paul Revere one, man.
I liked those, and I actually like that one in particular because they've always kind of danced around it. Other than I had somehow forgotten about how ridiculous the Leonardo da Vinci stuff can get, which is to say
He was fun, though, but
he's a fun character.
yeah.
He's a fun character. No, and so that kind of justifies it. Is he's a fun character, so you'll let it slide. Like this traipses that national treasure line in some ways, maybe not to that severity, but considering the tone of the Assassin's Creed series so far with the way it plays with history, I enjoyed them putting you closer to it. I enjoyed them, like, instead of just being like, hey, I was an onlooker in this event. It's like, no, I'm going to have some agency in this. I'm going to go and fucking do it. We'll watch these other people hem and haw. And then
I think that there are times where they do that successfully, and then times, I guess, like the Paul Revere example, where I felt it was so shoehorned to the point of lunacy. But like when I'm forgetting the actual historical event, the shooting in like the square, the Boston. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know the actual. I'm blanking on the
Boston Tea Party.
No.
Boston Massacre.
Boston Massacre, is that just it? Okay,
I
I was
think
thinking
that might be it.
I think that's it. This is the one where
Is that the whites of
Those
their
are the
eyes?
only two things that have ever happened in Boston. So
the West there, and you hear that
They do-
line gets read.
Okay.
That speech gets said out loud. But yeah, you were saying about
And
Yeah,
Connor
they-
wrote it. What?
In that case, the way they put you into that situation feels much more natural for what they have to do of finding a convenient way that you're involved in all these areas. Like, that's one where you actually are kind of, I don't want to spoil how they do it, but just to say that the way they insert you into it feels much more natural, where you can kind of like, all right, like, it is where that, like, you're conveniently there, but like, whereas like Paul Revere, like, you're on the horse and riding him around.
But I feel like a lot of that's like a lot of those story beats are in service of kind of the greater Assassin's Creed agenda, and something that they hit on a lot more in 3, a little more explicitly than I feel they have in the past, which is the tenuous nature of the truth. And there's the founding fathers are lionized in American history, but obviously if you are in a war, a lot of shitty decisions have to get made at one point or another, and to have Connor there, who's this super naive, super idealistic character who, kind of has this, like, true, honor and honesty kind of mindset about things. When he's seeing, like, the aftermath of these events and they're saying, like, well, we have to, to win, this is the thing we have to do. And it's a little unsavory and unseemly, but, this is necessary. And to have that stuff be the context for that to have him push back against, I think it serves that purpose pretty well.
Yeah.
Even if it some of it can be a little hokey, be a little National Treasures / Forrest Gump.
Well, I've said in
Forrest Gump, I think, is a good example. Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
that sound
like how you land on Forrest Gump may inform how you land on Assassin's Creed 3, in terms of how they insert a character into past events.
Okay, so I really liked the dumb ways they inserted him into things, but overall, I wouldn't say I'm a big Forrest Gump fan.
You haven't liked it on Facebook?
No, I did not go like Forrest Gump on Facebook. I don't even like ping pong.
And why do we have this weekly meeting at Bubba Gump Shrimp? I don't understand.
I just love me some scrimps.
Okay. If I'd known that's how you felt about scramps.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Straight scramping.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of the things you were saying about Assassin's Creed 3 makes me not want to play Assassin's Creed 3. To be honest.
I'm pretty lukewarm on it. I'm enjoying it. But they certainly set the bar for by doing two sequels to one of the numbered ones. They set themselves up for, like, the leap from 1 to 2 was so enormous.
Yeah.
Where 1 was, people enjoyed it, but you kind of had to enjoy it from a distance. It's like, I see where it's trying to do.
Right.
And it's so obvious where it has room to improve.
Like a lot of holes.
Well, they figured out, like, an hour and a half of really good gameplay and then did that 5 more times.
Yeah. And so,
do you remember one, like, where you had to go and get information?
Yeah, that stuff sucked.
On each dude.
That was the game. That was the entire game.
You had to, like,
except for actually killing the guys.
Sit down and, like, eavesdrop on conversation. Like, he goes out for his lunch every day at noon.
That stuff
like,
could have been really cool if they had used it to tell a coherent story, but it was just such irrelevant little, like you said.
It's like busy work.
I didn't like the first game very much.
Yeah.
Like, just in terms of, like, that stuff feeling like busy work and just...
I'm with Patrick. It was really interesting conceptually. But it
wasn't until 2 that I feel like they figured out how to execute on that idea.
I loved the atmosphere of the first one, though. There was something.
It's one of those games you would love them to go back and, like, I would love to play Assassin's Creed 1 as it was meant to be played.
I mean, I kind of like the philosophical bent they took with it and everything. Like 2 kind of turned into a comic book to some extent.
Yeah, flamboyant Italians.
It's fun.
Give a shit about assassinating.
Right. No one would read that comic book. It's flamboyant Italians.
It got more cartoon.
Nope.
Could be in a different section of the video store, though.
Yeah.
It got more cartoony, is what I mean.
I've been, I am on record not a fan of the ending of Assassin's Creed 2. I have not cared for where that series has gone. It's easy to do a twist when you don't.
You're just being crazy. The end of Assassin's Creed 2 is great.
I gotta go back and watch that
when you lay the ground, when you don't lay any groundwork for a twist is real easy.
Yeah, that's true.
But the problem is then they have to make good on that twist over the course of, like, 3 more games.
Been watching them try to do that.
What was the twist?
I guess in retrospect, it doesn't necessarily feel like they're doing a great job of that.
What was it?
No.
Was it Aliens?
It was the
Wait, what are we doing here?
first. We're talking about the end of Assassin's Creed 2.
Let's wheel it back in for folks who.
Okay, if you have not finished this 3-year-old game yet, spoilers. We're talking about the end of Assassin's Creed 2.
Pretty big point.
Right, but we have also talked about...
And also, that's what the games after it totally hinge upon, so it's sort of...
I don't know. I think they're still just about stabbing dudes.
But if you play Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, you now know everything about the end of Assassin's
I'll go watch
Creed
it on
3.
YouTube. It's been a while.
No, I'm talking about 2. I'm not talking about Brotherhood.
I know. I'm saying if even that is a point of contention, I'll just go watch it.
I don't think it is.
It's been a while.
I don't think it is.
But more to the point, it's that moment where the game talks to the character, or doesn't talk to the character, but it's talking to Desmond.
Right. Okay. Yes.
That part.
Yes. Now I remember.
That part's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that part is pretty fucking awesome.
It's so great.
I mean, I think I'm with you on the appreciation that you are conveying about it, but then thinking about what that actually means and what they have to do.
Yeah, it's
just like
it's derailed a lot of stuff, I guess. But
it's hard to know what the roadmap was when Patrice left, but it just felt like they've had a really hard time laying out some sort of end game for what they're trying to accomplish.
Well, everything is always more interesting before you blow the mystique wide open, right?
Yeah.
Answers are never going to be as interesting as the mystery.
Right.
And other than 2, I mean, the first Assassin's Creed ending was fucking infuriating. I hated the way that game ended.
How does 1 end?
1 ends with you in the room, and then you have Assassin's Vision, and you see all the crazy cryptic writing on the wall, and then credits.
Right. Right.
So it's just like that was a fucking non-ending.
Yeah.
Big fat tease.
And Assassin's Creed 3 ends.
But there's another one coming out next year.
I thought they said
Nope.
this was the last one for a while.
Nope. They said they were saying. I mean, they've said that in the past, but I think that was more the designer speaking to, please God, give us a break.
Yeah.
But no, they've already said there's another one next year.
I'm not going to... I won't say anything with any sort of specificity about the end of Assassin's Creed 3 other than...
But there is some finality to some parts of the story?
Yes. Certain parts get wrapped up and other parts get left so that they can make another Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah. I was curious if they revisit Connor. The interviews I was reading was that they were implying Connor is not going to come back next year.
I don't think he warrant... Like, I think the strength of Ezio as a character is why you got 3 of those games.
But I thought maybe I'm wrong, but I thought there was purely a production aspect to it, which was we already have this character, everybody's cast, we have a bunch of art assets.
I'm saying I don't think they would have worked. I don't think people would have kept showing up.
Sure. But I also took that to be, that's how they achieved the annual release schedule.
But they could just as easily set something in a similar era with a different character. I mean, they did Liberation.
Yeah.
Around the same.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you can see the expansion of moving west in the United States. There's plenty of stuff for them to play around in that reuses.
And keep in mind,
assets.
past Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, you're going into all new areas in Revelation.
But
And
even
in Brotherhood,
you're
right. There's
a shared architecture and stuff.
And then also just a certain amount of shared assets. But
I'm not saying they didn't have to do any work, obviously, but
there was a framework in place that made it, and also
they were more
they were building on the same systems. Like it's easier to add one major system to an existing framework.
Right. Right.
But that's also, I don't know, but Connor's also a character that is ripe for growth. Like that's kind of the beauty of him is that he's, Altair came in with all of his fucking dogma already in place, all his weird righteousness, and, Ezio was already this, kind of, flashy playboy character. But you did get to see some growth with Ezio, but with Connor, he is so much more of a blank slate. Like I could see them doing some interesting stuff and eventually evolving him into a really, really interesting character. But I don't think he is not at the likability level of Ezio.
And there's nothing saying he needs to even be a playable character for him to continue showing up. Yeah. I mean, they could develop that character and satisfy that part of the audience,
sure,
and move on to a different playable character if they wanted to.
I mean, that's what like the interviews I was reading was implying was that there'll be someone different next year, and if it turns out everyone really liked Connor, we can't bank on that, and it's easier to just come back to Connor and please people in the one after that,
right?
Because you assume they'll probably go through a similar 2 or 3 game cycle, and maybe. But I think it would be healthy to switch up the protagonists. I think that is a good thing, but we'll see.
So you guys still saying Brotherhood is the best one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Brotherhood is the best one overall. 2 is the bigger leap. 2 is probably the most impressive one.
Well, 2 is where they figured out how to make it a game.
Yeah.
Basically.
And they just did such a great, Ezio was probably one of the best characters this generation. It had everything, it had a better character, better setting, better mechanics, a better foundation to build on. 2 is more impressive, but Brotherhood is probably the better game. Brotherhood is
also
one of the best games this generation.
Also, don't forget how goddamn good Assassin's Creed 2 looked when that came out.
I was surprised yesterday when I fired it up how good it still looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, frame rate on the 3 is pretty rough. The couple of times when you'll climb something really high and there's no geometry being rendered around you and it looks 60 frames a second, you're just I just want to stay here.
Oh man,
I don't want to look down. It's not bad, but especially for you guys who have been playing stuff, even as someone that's not been playing PC versions of these console games, I'm sitting there going, this, if you're gonna play this game, I really would recommend waiting for. Assuming the PC version isn't bad,
right?
Like, the frame rate stuff is enough in this game that if you can wait, you should wait, I think.
I feel like 2 also had a really fun time taking the things that were established in 1. Like you said, 1 was very austere, and like the Assassin's Guild was very serious stuff. And like 2 kind of had a good time with it. Like
they're Italianing it up.
Yeah, remember like when he goes to like chop off his finger for the blade, and he's like,
"That's a great little
just
moment."
Fuck with you. You don't need to do that. I figured out. By the way, here's another blade, and like here's a gun, and like here's all this. I made some parachutes, and like let's have a good time with this assassinating thing. And like 1 was super serious.
Yeah.
And playing both of those, I think at the time was a lot of fun. I don't know if 3 goes into like, we attached a Gatling gun to your arm or something, but like
built you this power armor.
No, they kind of roll it back.
Yeah.
Like they are much more withholding with like the gun stuff. Like you have a gun. Other characters have, muskets mostly. Every once in a while, someone will have a little pistol or something. But that's probably the only place that the upgrades are really meaningful, is that you can get like multi-barrel guns. So you don't, because it's a lengthy, like the reload process. There's a little kind of like bar that refills over the icon in the corner, and you have your gun selected. But it'd take it a good 15 seconds to go through the animation. Like you watch him, he's packing and stuffing and getting ready to fire off his single shot that he's got. So having something that has multiple barrels, that's probably one of the few meaningful upgrades you can get.
I just bought that, where it's kind of like the shotgun.
Well, there's a couple of different ones you can get over time.
Oh, okay.
Is there electricity yet? Is it the beginnings of electricity?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Not for another 100, 150 years.
What?
Yeah.
What about Ben Franklin? He's right there.
Well, I mean,
He discovered electricity.
discovering its utility, sure, but laying
that's
the
what
infrastructure.
in the Assassin's Creed universe, all you need is a kernel of truth to
Yeah,
have Connor with a taser.
No, they're not even.
Light bulbs were like pushing 20th century before they were widespread.
Right. I'm just talking like the beginning, like.
Oh, you mean like flying the kite with the key on it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, Ezio, I found this great thing. Great. I'm going to turn it into an assassin tool.
No.
And like now I can electrocute
Lightning
you.
gun.
Yep.
No, you've got your tomahawk, and you've got your hidden blade, and you've got your pistol. And you can get different kinds of blades, and you can get different pistols.
Do you guys use guns? Like, granted, I haven't played. I'm way behind. I don't know how the gameplay has evolved in that series, but like, I never used the gun in 2, and I felt like if I was even in a position to use it, I was playing wrong. Like I wanted to be all sneak up on guys and stick them with the hidden blade kind of stuff.
Well, you're doing so much like group combat stuff.
It was so much easier just to counter kill everybody always.
Also that.
Also, your knives are usually one hit kill anyway,
Yeah,
and you could like flick those things out. Like
You start getting to the point where
I never even used. I didn't use projectile weapons at all.
I just run around knifing dudes now.
Yeah, no.
yeah, like once you get into, so this uses a pretty similar like group combat system that the series has. So it's very much like get your counter kill in and then start chaining your counters together. But you start getting a lot more enemies that are more willing to run up behind you and start hitting you while you're still attacking someone else. So it's a lot more like I'm in the middle of one more hit and I'll kill this guy, but I'm about to get interrupted by the guy who's coming up from behind. So you get the little red triangle. So then you do a counter shot to him, push him back. It seems like they throw bigger groups of enemies at you, and again, they seem a little more aggressive. So they'll come at you. So just and also you have a lot more, not a lot more because they've had this in the past, but you start running into a lot of enemies where it's like, okay, my basic counter kill stuff doesn't work. I have to go through a little more effort here and disarm them first before I can actually get killing blows in.
All those armor wearing redcoats.
It's not so much the you just see like there are unit types. It's like, okay, that's a bigger, tougher dude. If I try and just hit
those
him,
guys with the backpacks are like the heavies.
Yeah.
Other guys,
or like there's the riflemen who can line up and do that stuff.
Are the guys patrolling rooftops?
Yep.
What?
You just said that before.
But why?
They got guns.
Because assassins are running around murdering people.
Assassino.
Yeah, no more of that, huh?
Yeah, the reloading takes so long that I just don't engage with.
See,
the
I'll
combat
throw
at
money
all.
out.
Yep.
There will be one of the like new NPC types are orphans.
Yeah.
And orphans will bother you unless you throw change at
Yeah,
them.
instead of beggars, it's orphans now.
Yeah.
And
Can you like knee them in the face or something and push them away?
There's kind of kids all over the place. There's also like a lot more livestock than there's ever been. Like obviously there's animals out in the wild,
Sure.
but also there's just like dogs and pigs just kind of walking around the city. You can go up and pet dogs.
Can you kill them?
Yes.
Can you kill?
Yeah, there's a
because sometimes there will be like enemy patrols out with dogs, so you can be like in a hiding spot, like out of sight of anyone, and like not be on a cooldown timer or anything.
Click right stick to break dog neck.
Are the dogs a bitch?
No, not so much.
Okay.
But it can't be one of those things where it's another factor of potentially giving away your hiding spot. Like, okay, I'm trying to run away from these guys. Okay, I found this, hay bale cart. I'm going to go stash in there for a second. Like, okay, I'm cool. And this, patrol rounds a corner and there's a dog and the dog starts barking.
Sniffing you out.
Runs up to you and starts barking at the hay bale. Like, oh, fuck.
I just asked because dogs.
So I iced that dog.
Dogs in Mark of the Ninja are the worst, and it was starting to feel like dogs might be this year's helicopter.
No, dogs are not. Dogs are not that.
Can you kill the kids?
No.
Can you push the kids?
I mean,
Yeah, you
as
kinda
much as-
shove 'em out of
as
the
much
way.
as you push anyone. Sure.
You push them off cliffs or rooftops?
No, there are no cliff or rooftop based kids, as far as I know.
Can you land on a kid?
I think
like an
it
air assassination.
No, like sometimes you just fall off and you're like,
I
drop
think
on.
I think you just kind of
Can you
bounce them around.
can you hide in a group of kids?
No, because the only groups of kids are the orphans.
That's illegal.
All right, so you can't blend with the orphans.
No.
So they're just there to harass you and be
Yeah.
annoying.
Just like the real thing.
Yep. You should appreciate that, Vinny.
Yeah.
Sounds like home life.
Start throwing change at your kid.
And there are, of course, like one or two voice samples for things that people say when you throw money out.
Money.
But it is not money.
How did you get here?
Money.
Direct descendant. Somebody else's animus.
When I first figured out that you could throw money, I kind of hoped that would be the case. I'm like, oh, I hope that someone realizes that that's fucking hilarious and just does a new read on the same money line.
Hey, Maria, it's just like my grandfather used to say. They just throw money into the streets.
No, everyone speaks with either
Like a
region-free dialects or like English.
like straight up Americanized.
I mean, just
Like-
no non-regional diction is what half the characters speak. in.
There's no like heavy Boston accents or anything
Straight
like
American English.
Yeah, or they speak
British.
with a British accent.
There's no like mid-Atlantic.
The British accent at that time actually was what we think of as an American accent.
that. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wait,
more give or
Facts.
take. Read all about it.
what?
They play it pretty loose. I mean, there's no one where you kind of like go eyebrow raise of like
Right.
that. Although
It may be more complicated than that, but we'll look it up.
the Indian woman, the Native American woman, when she first speaks,
From the early hours of the game.
yeah.
That's the long early hours of that game.
Yeah, well, it's kind of always the case. I think it's easy to forget that most Assassin's or all of the Assassin's Creed games take several hours to get up and running.
I did not find it a problem. The other ones, I don't have a problem with a slow start. It doesn't do a whole lot with those hours. I don't think
It introduces a lot of mechanical stuff. I mean, it sets the
it does
stage.
that for like 10 hours.
It sets the stage for. I think some of the stuff is a little slower.
I just think
than
it's
it need
pad.
to be.
I just think it's unnecessarily padded. I don't. I think the stuff they set up is important, and I like what they do in the prologue, without revealing how they handle it. I just think it's too long.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
For what they get out of it, I think it's worth it. All right. What were we talking about?
Halo 4.
You, Vinny Caravella, are playing Assassin's Creed Revelations.
Yes.
You're in Constantinople.
Yeah, and I thought I finished it up, and then it was in a cave, and I burned that shit down. So I don't know where I'm going next.
How do you burn down a cave?
Yep, because I'm an assassin.
Oh.
Yeah, you got a little more stuff to do.
What? I found everything he went there to find.
I'm trying to think what you have left to do.
Kill a Templar.
You jump off a roof,
Yeah.
stab a guy.
Yep.
Have you tried that yet?
I'm just getting up to that part.
Okay. We'll do that, and then I'll probably get you to where you're going. Playing anything else? Just Revelations?
Just Revelations.
Fantastic.
It's fun.
All right.
It makes me more excited to get into 3. I know you said, like, oh, you're going to be burnt out.
Yeah.
But no. Excited.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, that's like amidst all this other stuff of the gameplay systems that don't interlock as well as they have in the past, and some issues with tone and certain things about the structure of the world. Fucking,
I don't care. I want my narrative.
Stabbing dudes in the face
story.
with your tomahawk is pretty awesome. The hot fresh set of animations for executing dudes with a tomahawk are goddamn fine. And yeah, Patrick, to your point, I think that it can be an inconsistent looking game, but I think the highs can be really, really high.
Yeah, it's highs and lows.
Yeah.
Do you ever just bury that thing directly in someone's skull? Just like straight up, full on, just chop them straight up?
Maybe?
Can you throw it?
There are
No.
there are definitely animations where it feels that way.
Yeah.
But there's never like a full on like first person watch Connor
Yeah.
drive it into someone's skull. But there are some of those animations.
You're not changing character geometry with your tomahawk.
You never have
it's
to,
not
like,
Soldier of Fortune.
Yeah.
you don't have to put your foot up and
If
and
only.
push them off and like kind of pull it out the top of their head kind of thing.
Yeah, you kind of have to do. There's some,
All right.
there's some
Okay.
Yeah.
not necessarily from the head, but
I
there's
want to see
definitely
that
some
thing sticking out of people, and you got to like work to get it out because it's in there deep.
It's why you don't want to give it up. Like you have swords that, like when you go to the shop, it says like damage +4. It's like but then it's a sword.
Right.
Yeah, I
what
like
am
it.
I doing?
I like murdering dudes with this fucking tomahawk.
And the game's not ever difficult. At least certainly not to the point I played. Difficult enough you were like, I need a more powerful set of items. Like you can kind of stick with what you get by default.
Yeah. I had no problem sticking with the mostly the basic stuff for most of the duration of that game.
It's interesting to think that game is taking place only a couple 100 years after the Ezio stuff. Like where Ezio is kind of leaving off. I think he's at
What is Revelations like? What is the exact
I don't know the
period?
exact time, but it must be. It's a little post-Renaissance, so it must be like 15s, mid-15s, maybe late 1500s. And this is picking up like 1750-ish.
Yeah, 2 ends about 1500.
Yeah, so like, Ezio's a good 30 years past where 2, I think, picks up. Because he's about 20-something at the end of 2.
Yeah.
And he's in his 50s maybe in Revelations.
Sure, I say 50s.
Yeah, 250 years, something like that.
Yeah, not that long.
No.
How much time was there between Altair and Ezio?
That was a while. That was like
Like
500 years. That's like 1100. That's the Crusades,
one
right?
with the Crusades.
Like 9 to 1200.
Something like that.
I don't know. No history buff.
I'm not sure. Well, yeah, I don't know.
But I think it's
Longer. We know that much.
I think the first game was in like the 11th century, I think,
the first one.
or maybe 12th.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That was another thing I liked about that game. How many games have the balls to set themselves in the Middle East or in the Crusades?
That's why I put up with like the dumbness I think of the sci-fi part of
the
it.
novelty of playing a video game in that historical setting was
Crusader.
like mind blowing.
Yeah, it's knowing a market reality, which is we cannot market a game set in that period. But if it's a sci-fi game, we can get away with it. Sure. And so that's why like I don't get too hung up on everything that's happening in the larger Assassin's Creed modern.
Oh, that's the stuff that matters.
Because I come to these games to play around in worlds that wouldn't be built with this amount of fidelity otherwise. Right. So it's do whatever you want, Assassin's Creed, as long as you keep setting it in weird periods that games would otherwise not be made in.
I want to be an assassin in 1950s in America. Just see what the hell you're doing there.
They got to do something with that eventually.
Red Scare. Got to go kill these
They
communists.
can't go back, right?
Communists are all Templars.
Like they can't go back in time, right? They can't. You think they always have to be going forward with these
They've
games?
already-
Well, no, because
they've
how do
already-
you go back before Altair, right? Like, because it's like he's the beginning
I'm
of
not
the,
saying that.
like find something in between. Like,
There's a way they could do it, but
Yeah.
then that would be the phrase I would utter would be a spoiler. So I don't want to.
I don't know. You could think of a lot of other.
There are ways they
interesting
could go
stuff.
past. They've even make some
Well, 'cause
idle mentions to it in 3 of ways they could go.
You've already, oh god, forgive me, I can't remember. You've already missed the French Revolution at this point.
I thought
right?
that would have been a good one. Yeah.
Well, that was the rumor. But
Yeah.
that's
Well, that was Michael Pachter's fake rumor.
so you've already missed that.
I think you can go.
They've already
Far
said they
East.
won't do a
I was gonna say-
World War I or II.
I was going to
I
say
think they've
like
already
feudal
said.
Japan
Yeah.
could be interesting, but you've kind of missed. You overshot that by a couple hundred years too.
What about
Yeah.
Egypt?
Yeah.
Pyramids.
Climb pyramids.
Yeah, I'd say
That sounds awesome.
I say keep checking on
Synchronized on top of a fucking pyramid? Hell yeah.
Do you want to see gigantic fucking brass balls on Ubisoft set an Assassin's Creed in Jerusalem in 33 AD?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking that the other day.
Would they go there?
Because like, would you probably be Jesus?
Would
Like,
they go there?
Would you basically just?
Hey
be
man,
like,
I made this cool flying machine. Thanks,
It's just,
Jesus.
it's just all the dialogue from Leonardo.
Yeah.
It's just this cross-shaped
Oh.
flying craft.
You're right, Brad. It would be some big balls.
Well, I guess
Because then you start imagining like the ways they have to shoehorn you in with like gameplay mechanics.
yeah, I don't even want to talk.
Actually,
about
I
this.
guess
And then it turns out he was a Templar, and you hammer in the last nail.
I'm opting.
Oh man.
what? I'm sorry I
I am
brought it up.
opting out of this conversation and just crossing myself profusely. Just-
Although,
Jesus.
come to think of it, I guess they get off on a technicality because they already set a game there, just at a different time.
yeah,
I think that they need to keep hitting. I think they need to keep moving forward in time, and I think they also need to keep hitting different continents. Like that's been the strength. Has been going from Middle East to Italy to North America, like just
Australia.
yeah. I was just gonna say Australia during like the prison colony days.
But that's also an issue of like how much you need a certain amount of urban infrastructure
Sure.
for these for kind of the fundamentals of Assassin's Creed.
But apparently not. I mean, you're saying that the towns in 3 are,
but they have something.
right, but that's like that sounds like bare minimum.
Or how about, I don't know, like the height of the Roman Empire, maybe?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Sure. But I mean, I would be happy to see them go
Caesar?
back in time, like to different time periods. I do wonder if people would react to that, if there's the sense of if you're not moving forward, then
I would
don't think so.
much rather see a future Assassin's Creed like 3000 AD, where I don't even know what you're climbing. Dinosaurs.
I wonder how much further they can actually go with the series, though, before it just kind of runs out of steam. Like, is Watch Dogs going to become the new is Assassin's going to Creed going to become the Prince of Persia to Watch Dogs Assassins? Does that make sense?
Whoa, I don't know.
But I think they like that to happen. It's just
they basically they put Prince Persia out to pasture once Assassin's Creed exploded. So what if Watch Dogs becomes that next gen new IP that blows up for them?
What if the guy in Watch Dogs is an assassin?
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
What if he's a Templar?
Oh man.
what if he's Jesus?
Yep.
what if he's the Master Chief?